and welcome to Not So Super Movie Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about Men in Black 2, which had a critic score of 39% and a user review score of 45%, which compared to some other movies we've done recently is actually pretty close. So we'll see where I stand on that. Now you might be thinking, okay, this isn't a superhero movie, but it is actually based on a comic from the early 90s by Malibu Comics, which was eventually purchased by Marvel. So that definitely falls within the realm of my channel. So let's get into it. Alright, so the first thing that works with this movie is, in my opinion, the alien sort of aesthetic they have going on. It definitely has this sort of campy, low-budget sci-fi vibe to it, where it really relies on the practical effects. And I think that's something that the first Men in Black did very uniquely to pretty much any other movie. And whatever you want to say about this movie, I do feel like they still did capture that. You've got your weird aliens, and you do have your practical effects. So whatever you want to say about the story and what they did with this one, I do have to admit that the style and the feeling of a Men in Black movie is still alive and well in this movie. The second thing that I want to say is just the main characters. I mean, they nailed it in Men in Black 1 with Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith, and bringing Tommy Lee Jones back for this one was a really good choice. I don't know what happened to the girl from the first one. Somebody should probably check on her. There's some throwaway line as to why she's not there. In fact, the movie starts by showing you a whole nother agent that you've never met before, and then it jumps over to Talking Dog, and then it finally gets back to Agent K, and that interaction is as sharp as ever. When I'm thinking about this movie, the things I didn't like, it was never their interactions. They're just golden together, and I think that they kind of realized that was part of the charm of the first one and wanted to bring that back. And I am glad they did, and I think they did do it in a very interesting way. Also, you have to mention a little cameo by my boy Agent Scully from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I was not expecting that. I did not remember that he was in this movie, so when I saw that, I was definitely happy to see a familiar face. Alright, that about is everything that really works about this movie, so let's move on to the good stuff, which is what didn't work. And the first thing that comes to mind is the special effects and the practical effects. Now, for the most part, the practical effects were on par. Even the little fake scene in the beginning that's like the supposed to be parody of a crappy alien documentary, that was amazing, and they did such a good job with that. But the special effects, the CGI effects that they use in this movie are just noticeably bad in some parts, and I am only mentioning it as a feature of this review because it does take you out of the experience. Notably, in the very beginning where Will Smith's character, Agent J, is riding on a worm in the subway system, it looks like from the old sitcoms where people are in the car and you can tell behind them is a fake screen, and so yeah, there's several moments where you look at the special effects and they're just noticeably lazy. Now, this movie came out in 2002, so you might be thinking I'm being a little harsh, but you have to consider this is the same year that Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man came out, Lord of the Rings 2, Star Wars Episode 2, Minority Report, Harry Potter. These are all movies that had cutting-edge special effects, so that leads me to believe that maybe the budget was low or the effort was low. Either way, it's a detriment to the movie. The second thing that I don't think worked about this movie is the characters. As I already said, Agents J and K, you're great. You did an awesome job there, but every other character in this movie is just thrown in and is honestly shallow in who they are and how much time we get with them. The biggest offender here is the main villain, Serlina. She's this tentacle monster, but for some reason she can shift into a person, and they find this stupid way to make her look like a woman in lingerie, which just felt like a sleazy move in a way, especially with some of the jokes and scenes they make to sort of point out hey, she looks like a woman in lingerie. It's really cringy anytime you see her, and her motivations are as generic as any villain gets. She wants to destroy as many planets as possible. She needs this artifact to do it. And that's really it. Also her little Johnny Knoxville sidekick, he's completely useless. He's not funny. It's not really set up as to why he's helping her or where he comes from. And so he ends up just being the comic relief that's not relieving to the villain, who's completely generic. The second worst offender for the characterizations here is Rosario Dawson's character, who's supposed to be the love interest of Agent J, and they fall in love after meeting just once. It's this really short scene where he just interrogates her, and suddenly he's protecting her. He takes her out for pie, which in the Men in Black universe is essentially a proposal. But it's just, by the time she kisses him, it feels desperate and weird because they haven't even really interacted much, and they're trying to sell this to you the whole movie, and by the end, where she turns out to be the alien princess in hiding, and she's going off into space to save Earth, you don't even really care because you didn't even get to spend any real time getting to know who she was, and she was just kind of there and female. You also got your pug sidekick, your talking pug sidekick in Frank. They try to sell him to you like really hardcore before Kay comes back, and then Kay comes back and he's completely gone. He's here for a little joke here and there, but he's completely gone. I don't think he was the best character ever, but they seem to want you to like him, and then they got rid of him. And so the basic problem with pretty much all the characters in this movie is that you just don't get enough time learning who they are, what their motivations are, and even liking them. And the last thing that I want to say didn't work about this movie is that it tried to ride the coattails of the first Men in Black, tried to tap into what we liked about it, but it did it in just a very lazy way, a very just unapologetically money-grabbing way, it felt like. It did follow the same story structure that basically all the Men in Black movies do, which is there's an artifact on Earth that the big bad wants. Men in Black is trying to find it before the big bad does. Turns out that artifact was hiding in plain sight. The Men in Black find it, but somehow the big bad gets it. Right at the last second, the Men in Black get to the big bad, save the artifact. They usually save a girl as well, and they save the day in the 11th hour. Everyone's good, and then there's some weird end scene that is completely trippy. That's the basic formula. This one doesn't deviate from that formula at all, but it definitely craps on that formula, and by doing it a lot worse than the first one. Definitely worse than the third one. We'll talk about the fourth one next week. But yeah, at the end of the day, this little subplot of Agent K trying to get his memory back, and then when he does, he finds out that he actually neuralized himself of a specific memory that he needs to solve this mystery. That was the most interesting part of this story, but that was like a subplot. And so yeah, the main plot is just not much there, and it tried to be Men in Black 1 and failed miserably. Alright, so who do I agree with? The critics or the users? And actually this time I'm going to have to say neither. I'm a huge Men in Black fan, and I was really happy to find out that they were based on comics so I could do them on this channel. And rewatching this movie, it was so bad in so many ways, but like I said in the beginning, it was still a Men in Black movie. It still had that heart and feeling of a Men in Black movie. It still had Agents J and K doing their thing. And so really at the end of the day, I was entertained, and if they had never made a fourth Men in Black and it was just the three, this would definitely be the worst, but it wouldn't be enough to make this trilogy, not good anymore. And so I really would rather, instead of giving it a 39 or a 45, for me it's actually more of a 55 range, because it's not a great movie, but I enjoyed it, and it did at least try to capture the original, even though it didn't. Alright, so now it's time for the bad line sning round, and we have plenty to work with this time. You like egg salad? I'm supposed to take advice on love from a guy that chases his own ass? I really want to learn how to be an underwear model. They told me I have real potential. Trapped like a rat in a chia pet. How are you, boo-boo? He's a Balchinian. Oh, yummy. Someone I need to eat. About to lay the smackdown on your candy ass. Alright everybody, thank you for checking out today's video. You can subscribe to my channel by clicking this link or check out some of my other videos by clicking here. If you liked the video, hit the like button. Let me know in the comments if you agree with any of my points. If you disagree with any of my points, I'd love to have a discussion with you about it. Tune in next week where we'll be talking about Men in Black International, which was also pretty bad.